Hello, I'm going to do something this morning that I've done since I was a very little girl on Good Friday morning, and that's to make an Easter garden. We used to make a big one in church with vases of daffodils and willow, catkins, pussy willow, but today I'm making a small one, and I wonder if you'd like to make one as well at home. So I've got a big green tray, a bit like the ones you use at school for your books, but I've covered it with papier-mâché at one end to build a mountain. So I made my papier-mâché with lots of strips of newspaper and some flour and water paste. A cup of flour for a cup of water makes a nice gloopy paste, and then you can stick the strips over the top. And I've started to paint it with brown and green, and you can see there I've got a hollow for the tomb, and I've got a stone somewhere to put across that tomb as they did on Good Friday to seal up the tomb. So I'm just going to put the last little touches of paint to it. I found some paints left over from some modelling, so just dabbing on the paint over the top. I've got some green areas on the mountain. It would have been a very rocky mountain, so a very brown mountain. There we are, that will do. I made this papier-mâché yesterday and left it then to dry, so it's had lots of time to dry itself off. You can't paint it until it is dry, or it goes all soggy and makes a mess. There, one mountain. On the top of our mountain, outside Jerusalem, was the spot where Jesus was crucified. So I've made a hole in there and I've put in one cross. Could put two more in for the two thieves if you want to, but I'm just putting one for the time being. And then I'm going to fill this messy space here, which you can see is a bit mucky from the moss that I've had in it. I'm going to turn this into a pretty garden. So I've been round my garden and looked for some odd leaves, little bits of twigs. I've got some moss here that I've pulled off the stones. So I'm going to put the moss down as though it was the lawn or the grass. Not sure the sort of garden that Jesus was buried in had a lawn, but it would have had rough grass and lots of rocks amongst the grass. So here we've got some rocks that I've picked up as well. There we are, the rocks alongside. It's a little bit more moss. Picked this moss yesterday and soaked it in water overnight, so that it's, well, some of it's a bit too wet really, but there we are. And if you wanted to, you could put some kitchen towel down in the bottom and just dampen it and then put the moss on top of that. There, I've got moss into my tray now, all the way along, and some of the rocks. I've pulled up a little plant here. I call it a weed in the garden, but it's a pretty little leaf. So we'll put that along the front. Trailing leaf. And here, some tiny petals that have come off. And even some ordinary daisies put into there. And this bush smells nice as well, so that makes a nice smell. Might be able to put something else into there in a minute just to fill it up. And I found as many little containers as I can that are tiny enough to be hidden by the moss or the stones in here, and will hold these little flowers. Everybody knows what these are, and we usually call these a weed, but look how beautiful they are. We've got time at the moment to enjoy our flowers. So cut it down to size and pop the dandelion in there. Here's another dandelion. It's one way of making sure that they don't turn into dandelion, what do we call them, that fly away. And got some celandines as well. Strange, isn't it, that so many of our spring flowers are yellow. Yellow cheers us up. And although on Good Friday, when Jesus' body was put into the tomb, it was a sad day and the world was dark, on Easter Sunday, when we'll be able to remove the stone, we'll be able to enjoy these flowers and the life and the cheerfulness that they bring. Here I've cut some leaves off some bigger plants to pretend they're trees. So we'll have a tree at the back, an aquilegia tree. I'll tuck it down a little bit, otherwise it'll topple out. Won't stay there, might just. Here's another selection of flowers. Another little shot glass. Let's put that one right over here. It's a good idea to stand them on the firm base. Now, if you haven't got a tray this size, then anything would do. You can just use the petals and just put the petals or the flowers into the moss. It's very tiny. So maybe if you haven't got a big tray, you could use an ice cream tub or a meat tray, something that is hanging around in your recycling. That's ideal for this job. I'm going to put that rest of that purple one into there. What else have I got? I've got a little jam jar there. Some flowers in, we'll nestle that at the front. And then I've got a big foresty one. Put that next to the dandelions at the back. How does that look? You can see better than I can. Now, if you haven't got any rocks hanging around, although most of us can find some on our walks around here, you could always decorate an egg. This is the egg that I used for making a cake yesterday. So put that in as a rock. Paint it if you want. And I'm going to put a shell in as well, because Easter's a time when we remember the new life. New life in Jesus, new life in our spring flowers, new life in our eggs, and new life in baptism. And the shell is a symbol of baptism. It's what Craig often uses to pour water over the baby's head. So I'm going to put a shell in there. And I also thought could make some people. Now, it's going to be a bit crowded in my Easter garden, but I was looking around for what to make people out of. Here's a yoghurt pot, an Actimel pot, and I'm just going to put a little bit of more glue on. I started doing this. I haven't got all the people I have on Blue Peter to say, here's one I made earlier. This is one I started earlier, so I'm just dressing this person in blue, and I'm going to imagine that it is Mary Magdalene. There she is, she's got a blue dress on, and I've got a little bit of pale blue here for her headscarf, and maybe then she'll need to have a face drawn on her as well. I'm not very good at drawing faces, I'll leave you to do that. There she is, Mary Magdalene, looking in the garden for Jesus. If you haven't got a bottle like that, then you could use a peg. Don't look too closely at that face. I think that's John or Peter running to look in the empty tomb. But that's an ordinary clippy peg, as it stands up nicely. Would do. So, what haven't we got? Anything? I know what we haven't got. When the stone is rolled away on Easter, inside there's no body. But what they do find are the robes that Jesus was wrapped in. So, I've got some white material here. I'm just going to put a strip of white material and put that into the tomb as a sign that there's no body there now, just the dead clothes from the dead body, and then seal it up again. And there we have our Easter garden. I'm sure you can make one as well, and we'd love to see them. So if you've got time today or tomorrow to go around and find some bits out of your garden, make a nice Easter garden, then put a picture onto the Facebook page and we'll show them, share them around. Thank you very much. Bye bye.